Assalamualaikum and hi. My topic will be on the pesticide drift. What is actually pesticide drift? Pesticide drift occurs whenever pesticide leaves the intended target site through the air during or soon after the application. Drift can happen during pesticide application when droplets or dust travel away from the target site. It can also happen after the application when some chemicals become vapors that can move off-site. Pesticide droplets are produced by spray nozzles used in application equipment for spraying pesticide on crops, forests, turf, and home garden. Some other pesticides are formulated as very fine dry particles commonly referred to as dust formulations. When pesticide drift occurs, some parts of the pesticide is not reaching its intended target and the potential benefit from the application is reduced. Thus, this can lead to damage in human health, environmental contamination, and property damage. Scientists recognize that almost every pesticide application produces some amount of drift of the target area. Not all the drift may be harmful or illegal. How much a chemical may drift and whether it is harmful depends on the factors as the formulation of the product, the amount of use, the application method, the weather, and most critically, decisions by the applicator. Even the most careful, responsible pesticide sprayer cannot control what happens to the pesticide droplets once they are released from his plane or tractor, and when conditions are right, this droplet can end up settling on someone's yard, on another farmer's crops, or on the skin of someone who can happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. There are two types of drift, which is the first one is particle or spray drift. Particle or spray drift is off-target movement of the spray particles. Particle means the active ingredient of the pesticide as a liquid or spray droplet, granule, pellet, dust, fumigant, and etc. Small droplets are most likely to drift than larger droplets. A number of factors influence droplet size, including formulation, nozzle type, sprayer pressure, and weather condition. The spraying involves the boom sprayer. Boom sprayers are used to apply liquid fertilizers, pesticides, or other liquids to crops during their vegetative cycle. Boom sprayers are used on different crops on the farm. The sprayer's height is adjustable to ensure that the crops receive the correct amount of liquid being dispensed. The second type of drift is the vapor drift. Vapor drift is the volatilization of the pesticide molecules and their movement off target. Volatility is based on the vapor pressure of the pesticides, and in general, higher air temperatures increase the probability of vapor drift. Particle or spray drift is most likely occurred these days. The main causes of the particle drift is the wind speed, humidity and temperature, and the last one is boom height. The ways to reduce this drift is to consider these main factors. The first one is the wind speed.
You can't change the weather, but you can adjust for it. Drift potential heightens as wind speed increases, so high speed or gusting winds should be avoided. Absolute calm conditions are not ideal for spraying either. Fine droplets may stay aloft.
Wind speed and wind direction are the number one factors to influence drift over and above everything else. Scientists noted that when the wind speed doubles, there is a 700% increase in drift when readings are taking over 90 feet downwind from the sprayer. This is a key reason why spraying is only recommended when speeds are at 10 mph or lower. The second one is the boom height. Operating the boom as close to the sprayed surface as possible, staying within the manufacturer's recommendation, is a good way to reduce drift. A wider spray angle allows the boom to be placed closer to the target.
This end of the sprayed boom is equipped with nozzles that produce a very coarse droplet size, and this side has nozzles that produce a fine droplet. Those fine droplets act like soap bubbles in the air and are carried off target by wind or rising hot air. Using coarser droplets gets more of the spray to the target. You may not see drift, but odds are it's happening. The shorter the distance between nozzle and target, the less impact the forces have on the spray. Don't get too close. Nozzles need a minimal distance to create a uniform pattern. Optimal distance is almost always indicated in the nozzle manufacturer's catalog. This sprayer will produce fine droplets under high-powered lights to show you what you can't see during the day. It's just as dramatic when you're using a boom sprayer.
Booms that bounce cause uneven coverage and drift. Wheel-carried booms stabilize boom height, which reduces the drift hazard, provides more uniform coverage, and permits lower boom height. Shielded booms reduce the drift from excessive air movement from travel speed and wind. The third one is the relative humidity and high temperature. Each condition causes faster evaporation of spray droplets and a higher potential for drift.
To understand how spray drifts, we have to look at droplet behavior. The forces acting on spray droplets include gravity, evaporation, wind, drag, and lift. Gravity pulls the droplet down out of the air. Evaporation makes droplets smaller. Wind will move droplets. Drag will slow droplets. Lift, which is rising air, carries small droplets upward.
During evaporation, the droplets become smaller. The quantity of spray that evaporates is related to the quantity of the spray deposit. Evaporation is greater from the same deposit in small droplets than in larger droplets because the small droplets have greater surface area relative to their volume. Evaporation increases the drift potential, so spray during lower temperature and high humidity conditions. Pesticides differ in their evaporation rate. Use formulations and adjuvants that reduce evaporation. If the relative humidity is above 70%, the conditions are ideal for spraying. A relative humidity below 50% is critical enough to warrant a special attention. As a conclusion, it is the applicator's responsibility to consider all the factors that impact drift of a specific pesticide application.
Under the Pesticide Act, spray drift is illegal. Here's what happens when glyphosate is sprayed beside a tomato field. It can result in crop damage, yield loss, harvest delays, crop refusal, and bad relations.
Determine if there are any sites near the application area that are particularly at risk from the exposure of the pesticide. These may include sensitive crops, organic fields, beehives, bodies of water, areas of shallow groundwater, schools, hospitals, and nursing homes.
Drift damage to a permanent or multi-year crop, such as a vineyard, orchard, ginseng garden, or greenhouse, can be evident for numerous years.
Read the pesticide labels to determine if the product has any specific warning or environmental hazards. Write down your plans to avoid pesticide drift into sensitive area and follow your plan during application. Keep a copy of your plan with application records. Indeed, pesticide drift is an insidious threat to human health as well as to wildlife and ecosystems in and around agricultural and even residential areas where harsh chemicals are used to ward off pests. The biggest risk from pesticide drift is to those living, working, or attending school near larger farms which employ elevated spraying equipment or crops dusted planes to apply chemicals to crops and fields. Children who are especially vulnerable to these airborne pesticides given that their young bodies are still growing and developing.
There is no sprayer, product, or management strategy that is drift-proof. However, by understanding the causes of spray drift, following label guidelines, selecting appropriate equipment, and making adjustments, the potential risk is significantly reduced.
So that is all for me. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. and take